What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome to Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. Today, we got a big topic to talk to you guys about. We're going to be talking about Baker Mayfield this past week in Minnesota, looking the worst that he's looked since 2019, that sophomore season of his, where a lot of us were doubting if he was the guy, and quite rightfully so that season. And now we are back to that question of what happened to Baker this past game. Jeff, I know this is a topic that you really want to get into. Obviously, I want to get into it as well. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. We put a poll out, which we discussed and thought it was a good poll to put out. I'll put it up on the screen. Make sure you go follow us over on Twitter at Pulse Cleveland. Closing in on 900 followers over there, and we appreciate all the interaction. Already at 20 votes, but it is a contract discussion question just after the first 25% of the season, give or take. Obviously, not exactly 25% because of the added game, but we're 3-1. So that's the best part, is that we're 3-1. Sadly, we probably gave that game away week one, which was shoulda, woulda, coulda. You can't hang your head on that. But Baker's performance this week is a big question mark. I think there's a lot of moving pieces on the offense that, we saw in 2019. We saw with the addition of OBJ that might have been an issue, but being someone who thought that OBJ might be the issue, he was not the issue yesterday. I think that there's an argument to make that their time together, Baker and OBJ, that maybe OBJ has been the issue, but yesterday that was just not the case.
Absolutely. And I think for me, I put out on Twitter yesterday that I'm one of the biggest Baker Mayfield advocates, that I think he's the guy. And I can very much clear as day come out here, say on this, be documented on this, that was easily Baker's worst game. And I don't think that we've, even gotten, 2020 Baker, which was, I think, towards the end of the season, some of the best football that he's played ever, which I think we were all expecting because, no moving pieces in terms of offseason departures, no head coach leaving, no offensive coordinator leaving, having to bring in new ones, having to bring in new pieces. It's the same offense from last year. I think if we go game by game, the way I put it, Kansas City, I think he played a phenomenal game. Obviously, he didn't have a touchdown in that game, but he had a lot of good throws that led to our scoring drives. And I thought, obviously he had the interception at the end there, circumstantial, but you move on to that second week against Texans, don't come out as hot as you did in the Kansas City game. But then the second half, again, I think he has some of those drives where he puts a lot of balls into the situation of, having to get us down into the red zone and letting Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt do their thing. And week 3 against the Bears, I think degrades a little bit more into, again, doesn't look great. OBJ comes back, tries to get him involved early. OBJ has a great game, I think, in that return for him. Baker overall throws a touchdown, runs for a touchdown. Does he run for a touchdown, that one? I can't remember, that's Bears or Texans. But nonetheless, Baker throws a touchdown to Austin Hooper. And we kind of start to see a little bit of, he misses a couple of throws here and there. There's one that, Jeff pointed out to me, maybe he'll put it up or he'll show or talk about it, but there's a DPJ touchdown that if he just, tosses it out to the flat, he gets a touchdown there last week. And then we come to this game, which is, the biggest talking point. A lot of people acknowledge that he could not, hit anyone. And a lot of guys, just the ball was airmailed on. It was airmailed on every single play except for the one to OBJ that he threw like a line drive at. And whoever the announcer was for, I'm watching on NFL Ticket. I'm at some island off of Hilton Head right now. So don't really know who was announcing this game, but this guy was trying to, make the credit that, he did that because the safety was coming down. He didn't want to air it too much, whatever. It does not matter. OBJ was wide open. The ball was bad. He had a ton of bad balls. He was 15 of 33 for 155 yards. The only good thing that you can really say that Baker did yesterday was he didn't throw an interception, and that's about it.
Yeah, so man, I totally agree with you. OBJ was wide open on that play. believe it or not, which he was wide open, like 5 to 10 yards wide open, honestly, a crazy route. But that's just a play that I think that's why we get away from Baker in the red zone, because that was a finesse throw and he just throws a line drive. And a lot of the balls he was trying to put finesse on, they were overthrown. He was overthrowing everybody, like you said. But here's here's a couple of the startling stats for me outside of, I'll start with the optics. I think he's outplayed week 1. I think Mahomes played better than him, believe it or not, which is a tough ask, outplaying Mahomes. Week 2, which this is the hot take, I think Tyrod Taylor was outplaying him until he got hurt. Week 3, everybody in the NFL played better than Justin Fields week 3, but you'll give Baker that. He played better than Justin Fields, as he should. And week 4, I would say that Kirk Cousins, I wouldn't say Kirk Cousins, I don't think that he outplayed him significantly. I think that they were both, you only score 7 points, so it's kind of a tough ask to say that you played great football. But I think that that's, Baker definitely didn't outplay Kirk Cousins. So I think that he's, 1 for 4 so far. He has 2 games already this year where he hasn't thrown a touchdown, this week and week 1. We don't have, this is the bad one. We don't have a wide receiver with a receiving touchdown through 4 weeks. That's bad. That's startlingly bad. I know we lean on the running game in all facets in the red zone. Like, I get it. I get we have Nick Chubb. I get we have Kareem Hunt. And I know Andy Janovich has a touchdown. Like, I understand that that's the MO, but I think we get away from Baker in the red zone because you need finesse on some of those balls. And the dude he's a gunslinger and just tries to throw it 100 miles an hour when we're down there. So Kevin Stefanski, gets away from him, maybe rightfully so. But this is something that I pointed out in the Houston game, because nobody wanted to listen to me besides Justin actually wanted to listen to me. But when I say nobody, I mean people on Twitter who I didn't talk to, but nobody wanted to listen when I said that he was 90% completion percentage, which I'm fine with touting the completion percentage stat, but now it's down the drain after this game. So you kind of have to get away with that. But 75% of his completions in the Texans game were less than 5 air yards. This week, he's 0 for 7 on passes that are 20 air yards or more downfield. The play calling, I think, has come back to bite Kevin Stefanski a little bit. Baker probably doesn't have a great connection with OBJ again, because when's the last time they've played football together outside of the ACL injury? It's been a long time. We don't play a lot in the preseason. This seems off the wall and random, but when it looks like the quarterback has chemistry issues with the wide receivers, you just know they don't take a lot of game reps together, and that's just been the case. We haven't seen a lot of plays down the field to the wide receivers. We've seen a couple to the tight ends. We've seen Austin Hooper down the middle. We've seen Harrison Bryant down the middle, and we've seen Rashard Higgins down the middle. I think his best connection yet again with a wide receiver is Rashard Higgins, which it's been his whole career, because they probably have the most real live game snaps together. But I don't know. There's no panic button though. There's no panic button, because this is probably the best week for him to have a dud game like this, because I think that this is what I've always liked about him. He plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he usually bounces back. He's proven in his career that he plays bad. People call him a bust or whatever they want to call him, and then he plays good. We're going to need him to play good this Sunday on the West Coast. We're going to need him to throw multiple touchdowns. He hasn't thrown it, out of his last, including the playoffs last year, his last 6 games, he's thrown 1 multiple touchdown game. It was the Steelers game. He had multiple touchdowns in that game. Chiefs game he didn't, and then he hasn't had 1 this year. So we're going to need him to step up, and hopefully he'll throw a couple touchdowns this week.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, Jeff. You made a point about the play calling, and obviously we're not going to make a huge note about the play calling in general, because it has nothing to do with making completions, unless guys are just dead set not getting open. But I think it's really weird that the point about no wide receiver having a touchdown. Typically, when you get down into that red zone area, that's a Jarvis Landry central. I think Jarvis is being missed heavily in terms of the red zone usage. And I didn't look up this stat before, but Baker in the past in the red zone used to be lights out. I think there was a stat that Baker was very much a top 5 quarterback in terms of his conversion of being in the red zone and having touchdown passes to interceptions. Obviously, he doesn't have an interception in the red zone right now, but I think obviously he doesn't have many touchdowns in the red zone either. That being said, I think the play calling has been weird. Jeff, if you can recall, how many times do you see one of our tight ends actually pass block nowadays? I don't think I see it a lot, and we see it a lot happen to Myles Garrett.
Saw it more
where tight
last
ends,
year.
yeah, I find the sets that we're running to be really awkward sometimes. I'm not a huge fan of the 5 wide, to be honest with you. I understand that it does good sometimes, but I'd much rather have a running back come out of the backfield, chip someone, and then go out to the flat than, just start with 5 guys blocking away. Because I don't know, it's weird. Obviously, we talked about the Jedrick Wills situation and the pressure that has been coming from that blind side, that left side. But I think a point to be made is just Baker Mayfield has slightly evolved his game and also degraded it as well. Is he doing better running the ball now? Yeah, I would say he's probably doing a lot better than he has in the past. However, Jeff made the point to me earlier off this podcast and off the recording that he's got super happy feet lately. Like his happy feet are bad. This is the worst his footwork has looked in a very long time. And I think it has to do with the fact that he is just trying too hard to make plays with his legs. And if there's one thing that, Jeff and my dad, listen, I have to stand next to this dude for every single game. And trust me, he lets me hear it about how much he hates watching Baker run the football. And so, there's times where he's leaving the pocket or he's like moving around in the pocket in such weird ways that either the ball comes out funky or he's just not sending his feet right, or passes are just, all around just getting airmailed or, freaking beamed at people when they should be floated. It's just, that was easily the worst performance I've seen and the worst Baker has looked since 2019. The good point about that, it's probably, like Jeff was alluding to earlier, probably not going to happen again this season. Obviously, great quarterbacks have bad games. Obviously, we watched Aaron Rodgers. Jeff mentioned in one of our other videos that Aaron Rodgers, week 1, throws 3 interceptions. He only threw 8 interceptions last year, but it is what it is. It's a game where, that mentality that Kevin Stefanski has established, the 1-0 culture, really kicks in, because now, even though it is a victory Monday today, this team is currently 0-0 for them. In their minds, they're 0-0. This last game is wiped away for them. And Baker, even though we say it's wiped away, I can guarantee that it's going to motivate Baker to be a better quarterback. He acknowledged everything in that press conference yesterday, which obviously is a great thing. We've seen him mature through last year and being with Kevin Stefanski, that I believe firmly that he's still the guy, but there's no more of this, belief of slow starts are okay. I'm no longer okay with, and Jeff would probably be ecstatic to hear this, I'm no longer okay with the slow starts to these seasons with Baker. And maybe it's a play calling thing. Maybe it's leaning on the run game too heavily in the red zone, but I'm not okay with, the lack of, long touchdowns or, long deep balls for touchdowns or, the usage of red zone touches for Baker. It is what it is, but it needs to stop. And especially coming up in this next week.
I get where people are coming from too with the, great quarterbacks have bad games. I understand where that talking point is coming from, but when you have such little boom potential, they talk about boom or bust weeks, especially in fantasy football. This is a fantasy football term, but let's just take it, through the box score.
Yeah.
Between the play calling and between, whatever's going on back there and how Baker's been used so far, he really has very low boom potential, and it just makes the bust weeks look so much worse. Aaron Rodgers, sure, he could come out and, first week be really bad. The next week he comes out, he's throwing 2, 3, 4 touchdowns. You got the potential. Mahomes loses back-to-back games, comes out, throws 5 touchdowns. Like, you don't have those big boom games with Baker so far. I think that you're right. His footwork is bad. It's probably the worst it's been since 2019, and 15 rushing attempts through 4 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot for someone who's a playmaker, but someone who shouldn't be, rushing 3 times a game through 4 weeks.
Jeff, just correct me if I'm wrong. I missed the first quarter of play because of island issues that I was having. Was there apparently an RPO for Baker in the first quarter? Did he run an
Yes,
RPO?
I think so.
Listen, I don't think we need to get into the conversation about
No.
why that should not be a thing. First of all, have we forgotten that the dude popped his shoulder out 2 weeks ago in the first case? And then second case, this dude isn't Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. The dude doesn't run a 4-2 or a 4-3. Like, come on. The play calling, I don't think it's awful because obviously our rushing game is still phenomenal. We still have two of the best running backs in the league and a phenomenal offensive line in terms of run blocking. But I mean, seriously, like the play calling and the formations that we use need to tighten up a little bit. I saw at one point there was actually finally the Baker Mayfield in the middle of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb.
Right.
And that's the only time I saw it. I don't understand. To be honest with you, at this point, I'm almost willing to go into a whole pistol formation with the running backs that we have at this point. I mean, we should take a check out of Kyle Shanahan's playbook because we have running backs for days, and outside of, no, they're the best part of our offense. I was about to say, like, outside of, oh, no, there's nothing because our offense is, it's phenomenal, but the running backs are the best part of it. And so, I don't know. Play calling needs to, Kevin alluded to it yesterday that his play calling wasn't, great, but that's kind of just the person he is. He kind of just takes all the blame, even if it's not his fault, onto himself. But I still think that there, like you were alluding to, we get into the red zone and we kind of shy away from Baker. I think, those first and 20 or, first downs on the 20-yard line, we've seen Rashard Higgins, get quite a few touchdowns in that area, and Jarvis Landry as well, even though he's not there. But I don't know. There's a lot to digest with the Baker Mayfield situation right now. And again, no panic button, but a lot to digest and a lot to talk about. And I think it's all fair to talk about. And there should not really be any mention of the whole. Listen, I'm probably going to take shade for this from someone, whoever made the tweet, but I don't want to see the people deserve Deshaun Kaiser or whoever the hell the other quarterback was that you mentioned. But let's be honest, like that's just, being absurd. If you can't talk about your quarterback having a bad game and a, not so great first 4 weeks of the season. So that's all I got for this one, Jeff.
Dude,
you go ahead.
No, you're 100% right, dude. But it's sad though, because this is what I have been worried about, because Andrew Berry isn't going to look at it like this. We're coming up on an extension, but we're at a point where it's literally like, oh, if you say one bad thing about Baker Mayfield, you're not a Browns fan. We haven't had a good quarterback in the last 2 decades. We just give him as much money as we want. No, that's not how sports work. Sorry, that's not how sports work. It's just so unlucky we've had a bad run of quarterbacks. Like if he plays bad, we're gonna say he plays bad. Here's the thing. Here's when Baker looks his worst. His footwork's bad. He's afraid of the pressure. And his 3 facets of the game to me are being a playmaker, which could involve running, which yesterday, I think that was the strength of his game, is that he had a couple of rushes, which I don't even like that much. But if you want to look at a positive, that was it. So let's just say as a playmaker. 2, his passing in the pocket, which I've never thought highly of him as a true pocket passer. I think you see it a lot. His balls get batted down. I think that he often tries to make hero throws in the pocket, which I never understood, because I thought he was a great pocket passer in Oklahoma. It just hasn't translated so far, at least to me. Along with the play calling, I think that the play calling has called for him to make easy, simple throws. And then when you see more elaborate, route trees and route running, and he needs to make passes down the field and maybe even improv a little bit, I think that's where you see him, not excelling as far as the Minnesota game. And 3, this is a big one, making tough throws, rolling out of the pocket. Usually he gets away with having a couple of, not great throws in the pocket, but then he rolls to his right, rolls to his left, and makes a crazy throw. And that kind of, that equals out a little bit. But you saw him roll out yesterday, and the pass to Kareem, the in the end zone that he overthrew him. He was rolling. I felt like he was going to make that throw right on the dime, and it was an overthrow. And I feel like that's, a throw that he makes more often than not, being on the run to his right side. And he just overthrew him in the end zone. It was a touchdown. But I agree with you. No panic button. But it makes me nervous that if he has a game like this, now you see the stats that the Chargers are, they're giving up oodles of rushing yards. It makes me nervous that we're going to shy away from him. I think that the one thing I'll give Kevin Stefanski, which it's bad narrative for Baker, but every week outside of the Texans game, but from the Texans game on, his passing attempts have gone up. Unfortunately, every week his passer rating and his QBR have subsequently gone down. So the theory is that if we're the defense, we make Baker throw 28 to 30 times, we got a good chance to win because his QBR and his passing and his completion percentage aren't going to be that good. But I would rather have him throw. I like Kevin Stefanski using him with 31 attempts last week and 33 attempts this week. That's probably the biggest thing I like about it, because you could see, Chubb, 100-yard rusher. We could do 30 passing attempts and still have a 100-yard rusher. We could make it work, which is probably the silver lining. Let's keep getting him in situations where he might mess up and might make a bad throw. That's going to help us down the stretch when we're playing better defenses.
Absolutely. And Jeff, I can, one last thing that I want to say I thought your points were phenomenal. The one thing that I want to take from that was your last point about him rolling out and being able to make tough throws. I prefer, and maybe it's a combination of your pocket passing and the rolling out play points, but I would much prefer you watch guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers sit in the pocket. And yes, they sit in the pocket. They don't step into pressure, but the one thing that they do is they stand there and they take a hit after they've made, a high quality throw. You've seen it happen time and again. And I think you're right. I think Baker is a little bit afraid of taking those kind of hits, but it's just something that he has to deal with. And it's something that he's going to have to learn to do because, smaller quarterbacks like himself, like Drew Brees, like Russell Wilson, they've had to adapt and they've had to do those things in order to be successful. So, in the long run, again, no panic button, but just a discussion that needs to happen and is okay to happen. So Jeff, you're all good with this one?
No, I agree with you. I think that if you're going to hold the ball, which he likes to hold the ball, you're not going to have people open, downfield unless you let the play develop. And you're going to have to take a hit to throw those balls, like you were saying. Last point about yesterday, this was the startling thing because I haven't seen it in a while. Usually he'll go like the easy play, like his IQ when he started playing well last year, I thought his football IQ was getting better every week. This week he was missing people open, missed the Felton play for the first down. So it was just a lot of nothing was going.
The Felton play was very, very bad.
Usually that's a throw he makes, even if I'm sitting there and I could bitch about it being, a 2-yard pass, but it would have been a first down, but it's still, then he just completely misses it. So he'll bounce back. I think he'll be fine. I think that I don't think we've shown our full playbook, which is weird, but I think that that's a thing Stefanski likes to do, but you're going to need to see 95% of the playbook to beat the Chargers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that being all said and done, thank you all for watching. If you guys haven't already, please leave a subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a like on the video, and give us your comments. Obviously, we had a lot to say about this one at Baker Mayfield, and so we want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let us know if you think, we're on the same page. If we're not, let us know what we're getting wrong, and we'll chat back with you. So with that all being said, we'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.